Hello and welcome to Future Tech Talk episode 49. It is a gorgeous day down here at the ballpark. There's a lot to talk about today. Stick around until the end because I'm going to address the future of this channel. But why don't we start with the big news of last week, the whole Scarlett Johansson thinking her voice was GPT Sky, and then OpenAI removes the voice. And I just want to say, without sounding too insensitive, what a stupid controversy. How did anybody get upset about this? It did. Okay, you know that I hate sounding like the arbiter of truth, and of course these are just my opinions. But it didn't even sound like her. I know that Sam Altman tried to recruit Scarlett for the voice, and I think that would have actually been pretty cool. Sort of a full circle moment, even though it is slightly creepy. And I know that he did tweet out her, but I don't know, it didn't sound like Scarlett. That's probably the main crux of the argument. Now, if you've seen the movie Her, you know that maybe Scarlett Johansson did have some sort of beef or like worthwhile argument that there's a movie using her voice to be an assistant for humanity. 8 years later, OpenAI develops a voice-powered assistant for humanity, and the recruitment combined with the overall vibe of OpenAI, I think there is a path that you could see a celebrity getting mad that their likeness was being used. However, it's just such a silly thing to be upset about. Like, are you saying that nobody who sounds like Scarlett Johansson could ever get a job again because they sound like her? Does it just come down to the most famous celebrity? And I know what I'm saying is not anything new. It's, in fact, that this whole topic is not even in the news anymore. That's how quickly the world moves on. But the whole outrage bothered me on like a very primal level, and I had to ask GPT about this. I said, "Hey pal, is there some sort of psychological term for when people willingly distract themselves with smaller problems to avoid focusing on the bigger problems? Like, my house just got hit by a tornado, I better start vacuuming the rug because it's dirty." The fact that anybody thought this voice scandal was a big deal and that people were like getting emotional online with regards to OpenAI and how they have no respect for artists and blah, 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 blah. I just keep thinking, like, do you all not know what's coming? You can buy a robot humanoid from China for like $16,000. That's going to be like $5,000 American made in a couple of years. Like, everybody's going to lose their jobs, and people were willingly getting upset and boasting about their morals over the likeness of a celebrity's voice for the robot. Where is all this outrage for the actual progress that's being made? Society is going to get replaced, and yet we're worried about a robot sounding this vaguely similar to someone we know. It's just like there has to be some sort of term for that, and it turns out there is. But okay, let me get to what GPT says, and then I'll tell you why I don't necessarily agree with this. But here we go. GPT says, yes, this behavior is known as displacement activity. Displacement activities are behaviors that are out of context or irrelevant to the current situation and are often performed when an individual is experiencing conflicting emotions or stress. It's a way to cope with anxiety or avoid dealing with a larger, more stressful problem. Now, I looked up displacement activity, and it's not quite fitting of this particular example that I gave, but, you know, maybe any psychological disorder is sort of 50 shades of gray, for lack of a better word. But I just want to hammer home the point of like, oh my God, there is such a big problem coming with society. And yet the biggest like spike on social media is the most ridiculous problem. And people are saying that, oh, OpenAI took down the voice, that means they're guilty. They're guilty of changing society at large. Where is the outrage on that? And you know what bothers me even more about this whole thing? is that I've really been coming around on sort of not trusting OpenAI. Like within the last year, people have been skeptical of Sam and their team. And I've kind of been on OpenAI's side in the sense that, well, I haven't seen anything that would make me not trust them. So all the opposition sort of felt a little performative. But recently, I've been a little more skeptical of OpenAI and just how their actions are not meeting their words. But then this whole Scarlett Johansson thing comes out, and I find myself defending OpenAI because they, like, it's just the truth that matters. I don't really care about what things look like. I don't really care about emotions. But it didn't sound like Scarlett, and apparently they hired another voice actor, so it is a completely different person. And it was conflicting to me when I'm second guessing, my confidence in that company, to then having to defend them, at least internally, because what everyone else was upset about didn't really seem like a big deal. But there's so much more that has come out now in the past week about, Sam Altman when he got fired and then brought back by the board, and how he wasn't necessarily open to the board of OpenAI about their progress, and it's just all so sketchy. And then someone else pointed out that, I think it was last year, OpenAI came out and said that they're not going to optimize for engagement with the chatbot. And I don't know how long you've been listening to me ramble, but that was one of my biggest concerns really early on, maybe like a year ago. I said, can you imagine if these chatbot companies started optimizing for engagement and these bots got to the point where they just kept you in a conversation loop? They kept asking you the right questions just to get you to talk, so that, okay, this is theoretically, they could insert ads every once in a while. Like, oh, you're struggling with depression. Why not try BetterHelp? Like, that is pure dystopian, but not out of the realm of possibility. Not saying ChatGPT would do this, but why wouldn't another chat company do this? Like, hey, you can talk to our bot for free, but it might show you ads every once in a while, and they might be pretty personal. How personal? Well, the bot's going to get to know you, so have fun with that. And you know what? A lot of people aren't going to care. It's just how people work. My point is that someone else pointed out that these voices, and the voice feature I don't think has been released to everybody yet, but they showed the demo of the Scarlett Johansson sultry, flirty voice where it's laughing at what you say, and it's kind of creepy. But how is that not optimizing for engagement? These things were way better when they were just tools, when they were just really advanced calculators. The more you humanize them, and Sam Altman tweeting out her as in the movie, as in this digital flirtatious assistant, oh my God, why are you bringing humanity down that path? Do you have no self-control? And I don't know who I'm talking to when I'm saying that, but as a company at large, can you guys just not give in to that urge? You're the leaders, why do you have to be the ones to do this? And I'm just going to go on another mini rant here. There's a lot of rich companies out there, a lot of broadcasting corporations that got into bed with these gambling companies. And I don't know if you watch sports, but if you do, you know how much you've been bombarded with gambling ads. And sure, they'll say, hey, if you have a gambling problem, call this number. But that's for 2 seconds in very small print after a 15-second ad from famous celebrities saying, hey, you can bet on anything. Just start betting. It makes everything more fun. And I'm just thinking, you guys are at the top. You're on the TV. You've won. Why do you have to get in bed with gambling? Why do YouTubers have to take gambling sponsorships? It's just money. I don't have a family I need to support. I don't have employees I need to support. I don't know what it's like to need money in that sense. And I don't disparage any person or entity for fixing their finances in a way to make everybody comfortable. I get it. Some of these gambling companies and their contracts, their sponsorships, they're golden geese. The money is good. But I still can't see myself ever doing that. It's the way I look at it is like this. Like, if you have a really successful YouTube channel or company or whatever, and you get 1 million views in a month, and 1 million people have seen your gambling sponsorship ad, how many people develop a gambling problem? I don't know if it's 1%, it's probably less than 1%. Let's just say, you know what, fine. I'm going to Google it. Okay, between 1% and 2% of the US adult population, so that's about 2 to 4 million adults, will experience a gambling disorder in their lifetime. That's from February 8th, 2023. So, Jesus. So 1% of 1 million is 10,000. So if you have 1 million viewers that have been exposed to your sponsorship ad, hey, this is brought to you by DraftKings. If you saw a stadium full or people on the street, 10,000 humans that you directly contributed to their gambling problem, do you think you would take the sponsorship? Like, I feel like the consequence is so far removed from how YouTube actually feels to produce that you might think, oh, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just reading an advertisement, a sponsored advertisement. Like, the people watching know that it's coming from another company. So, like, you're not doing anything wrong. But if you could see the people that you brought harm to, like, 10,000 people, and that is just a very low estimate of 1 million people and 1% of those people developing a problem, and you introduce them to gambling. We know smoking isn't good for you, so we don't really advertise that anymore. I don't even think you're allowed to advertise it. Why are we allowed to advertise gambling? And I know that each person is their own boss, and you can't control what other people do, and you have to let people live their lives. I'm not the arbiter of anything. I don't want you to think that I'm casting judgment on anyone. I'm just trying to say that companies make decisions that go against the good of humanity all the time. Gambling is one of them. OpenAI developing a flirtatious voice model. Why are they going down that path? These things were better when they were tools. Just tools. And then, maybe I could talk about this. There's a pretty famous soundbite from Steve Jobs. I think he's talking about Xerox, and this is from like the 90s. And he's like, you know why Xerox isn't around anymore? And Xerox was a pretty famous company, I think, in the 80s and maybe early 90s. And he's like, when a company does well off the start, it's usually because they made a great product. So their company is filled with product people, people who think about how to make the best thing possible. But when you become a monopoly and you have the best product, or you're the biggest company, everybody knows who you are. The only way to continuously grow is through marketing. Now, a company like Xerox would hire a bunch of marketing specialists, and those people would grow the company, and those marketers are the people who get the promotions. Then these product companies become marketing companies, and the product people get phased out of really important decisions. So the product becomes worse and worse and worse. Now, I thought that happened over a larger time scale, but I've read somewhere that maybe this has happened again with OpenAI. And the OpenAI team from 2019 doesn't necessarily still exist in the same way only 4 or 5 years later. OpenAI, GPT creates the best product. How do you sustain that product? GPT's chatbots, they're expensive to run. They're expensive to train. Microsoft, okay, I'm not going to say there's any direct correlation there because OpenAI is separate enough and it's not for profit. It's murky how their business is run. But the point is, if you need more revenue to continue creating a product, you might start marketing things in a different way, like creating a flirty voice for your robot. That was probably not brought to the attention of the team by a product person. It was probably brought to life by or through a marketing lens. Like, hey, how can we get more people to use GPT? How can we get more people to use our service? Make the experience quite intimate. Marketing people they're immoral. They don't care about the good of anything. They only care about like numbers going up and how to get more people on the service. It's like classic persuasion techniques. It's manipulation. to see that happen in real time with the most advanced technology that people have ever used. Not only is it the most advanced technology, I'm talking about just AI and transformer architecture in general, but it's so comically advanced that it's not even comprehensible. If you spoke to someone in the 1900s or the 1700s and you said, hey, do you ever think we could have like a box that you put stuff in and it was kept cold forever? Maybe they would think that sounded like magic. And then you're like, hey, maybe not even cold. Maybe we can freeze things and eat them weeks later. Maybe that sounds like magic, but maybe the idea of electricity and power could have been understood in some way. I'm not completely confident about that. I don't know. But maybe it could have been. But if you talk to someone in the 90s or freaking 5 years ago that we could ever have an auto text robot as good as GPT, I don't think it ever made sense. I don't think it makes sense now. You show it to someone and they're like, what's it doing? How does it do that? Like, I don't know, some people figured it out. Is it the same level of magic as any other piece of technology? I personally don't think so, because we have iPods, we have iPads, we have free GPS, we have electric cars. And yet, when people are shown those things, they kind of go like, oh, they get it. They've always gotten it in the past 20 years. They think it's amazing, but they kind of get it. They're not confused. When you show people AI, like Midjourney, that this thing can create anything you could ever think of in 30 seconds, they're like, what are you talking about? Why would it do that? How could it ever do that? It doesn't make any sense. To see this level of technology be overtaken by the pursuit of growth, oh man, that's just like a straightforward path to dystopia. And now maybe this is just a good time to talk about the future of this channel, and that I don't particularly like making these sorts of videos, and I'll try to explain why. Maybe the first big reason, the first big internal reason for me is that I don't necessarily want people to listen or watch these videos. That's why I don't cut them up into shorter clips. I don't want to contribute to that style of society. Be the change you want to see in the world. I don't want my opinion to be put out there. I don't want to be like, hey, listen to me about Sam Altman being bad. Like, no, I don't think my opinion matters, and I don't want to project that onto others. So I'm kind of using this channel as more of just like a sparring session, and if you're listening, I really appreciate you. But I don't want to see these videos from this channel be shared amongst other people, because I'm not saying anything I absolutely believe in. It's just ramblings. So that's probably the internal reason that I don't like making these videos. The second reason, it's a little more external, is that a lot of AI news recently I am perceiving in a more and more negative light. I was super optimistic, maybe not super optimistic, I guess I was always skeptical, but I've been optimistic in the past year of like, oh, look what these things can do, I hope they do this one day. And then sure enough, maybe once a month, I'm noticing that these companies are moving in a direction that I don't agree with, and I don't like having to cover that because I can't hide my negativity. I'm sure you've heard me in the last couple of weeks. Like, I'm not thrilled about some of these developments. And I also don't want to contribute negativity to society. I really don't like people who criticize in YouTube videos. I don't like anyone who can, talk about everything they hate without offering suggestions. Like, I cannot build a chatbot, so I don't think I have the right to tell people that what they're doing is wrong. Like, I truly believe that. So I don't think I can continue making videos on this channel for now. I would love to have a different format. I would love to have not necessarily a co-host, but that would be cool. I would love to do interviews, and I think I can come back to this channel one day, maybe in a month from now, maybe 2 months from now, maybe 6 months from now. I can see myself covering AI in a different way in the future, but the way it works right now, once a week, I think I'm gonna stop. It doesn't make me feel good to spend a day and a half covering and thinking about all the bad stuff. I feel like I could take that day and focus on my other channel and just like put my head down, put the blinders on, ignore society, let them do whatever they're going to do, and just focus on myself. That's how I got here, is by focusing on myself. And I think I need to continue to do that. I think it'll be better for my mental health because, yeah, all this stuff it does give me anxiety. I'm like, I don't have to surround myself with positivity. And maybe the only way to do that is to ignore all this other nonsense. Maybe I can post my thoughts on Twitter, but like, I don't think I'll be doing that. I'm just not the type of person. I really don't want to attract people by saying like, oh, here's what I think. Like, I know that's how you get eyeballs and engagement, but I don't want to contribute to that. So I don't know what I'm trying to say. I really appreciate you being here for 49 episodes of this. Maybe we'll call this Season 0, Episode 49. And then one day I'll bring it back, Season 1, Episode 1, maybe a new format. I'll let my brain simmer with that for a bit. I want to thank you for listening, commenting. It really means a lot. I appreciate that we share similar enough interests for you to engage with my thought patterns. I'll just say that I hope you're doing well. Take care. And I'll see you sometime. Peace.